Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This came in hot. All right. As AI reshapes industries, research, and education, technology leaders face both unprecedented opportunity and responsibility. In this panel, CTOs, CAIOs from academia, startups, and global enterprises will share how they are steering their organizations through this AI-driven transformation. We're really privileged to be joined by such an esteemed group here. We have Zhang is the co-founder and CTO of Together AI. I'm sure everyone in this room is familiar with that business. They are one of the hottest private companies within the AI sphere today, building a cloud for artificial intelligence. Is also the Neubauer Associate Professor of Data Science at the Department of Computer Science at the University of Chicago. The goal of his research is to democratize machine learning. We are joined by Klara Jelinkova, who is the Vice President and CIO at Harvard University, where she leads Harvard's centralized IT organization, serving more than 50,000 faculty, students, researchers, and staff. She's played a pivotal role in Harvard's digital transformation, advancing infra for data governance and AI-ready systems, promoting transparency in IT, cost allocation, and fostering a culture of disciplined innovation. We're also privileged to welcome Yanbing, who is the CPO at Datadog, a $55 billion public company who is a leader in AI-powered observability and a security platform for modern applications. She's focused on scaling and growing the company's product portfolio and driving innovation across the organization in AI. Prior to Datadog, she was the SVP of Eng at Aurora, the self-driving trucking business, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. And before that, the Vice President of Engineering at Google, as well as a board member at Equinix, the world's largest data center operator. Finally, but certainly not least, we are joined by Li Fan, the CTO and Chief AI Officer of CRCL, a $30 billion publicly traded company in the fintech space, helping businesses of all sizes harness the power of crypto and public blockchains. Li currently heads up all of engineering and leads AI at CRCL. She previously serves the CTO of Lime, the SVP of Eng at Pinterest, leading a team of over 600 engineers, and the Senior Director of Eng at Google, notably on the image search product. Additionally, she was a VP of Engineering at Baidu. So as you can see, we have a very representative panel from across the different realms of academia and enterprise, and let's kick things off with some AI transformation playbook talk. Klara, let's start with you. How have you approached AI adoption and digital transformation at Harvard? What does meaningful progress actually look like in such a large, complex organization? And what's been most surprising to you about what actually does work and what doesn't?
So first of all, thank you for having me, and thank you for the question. You know, one of the things when kind of you start thinking about integrating AI, the first thing that you think about is how do you get yourself organized around this, right? And so in the case of Harvard, we have a structure of, if you will, committees, oversight committees, and it's a connection between, on the administration side, me, the Office for Vice Provost for Research that handles the research side, and then Vice Provost for Advances in Learning on the educational side. But it's really important to understand that this kind of an organization, bringing people together, putting committees together, is only the beginning, and really, it is not a technology journey, it's a cultural journey. And so one thing that we have been really working through is there's a really great TED Talk about treating technology as a coworker instead of a tool. And I think that's an area where nowhere has it been more true than with generative AI. And getting people to understand that they're actually working with a technology with which they have to engage versus just a tool that they get to apply has been the biggest kind of a cultural element that we have been working through. And making sure that people understand that being able to work with the technology and that we measure the success by learning lessons versus necessarily ROI. I think my colleagues can talk about the fact that the ROI measurements are not always hard, but rather soft. And kind of how do you reduce the drag of the technology adoption by being very encouraging of people's experience and acknowledging of the people's experience, and how much of culture work do you actually need to do besides just kind of a traditional technology deployment has been, I think, the biggest learning for us.
And Yanbing, Datadog sits at the center of enterprise observability. What does AI transformation look like when reliability and customer trust are non-negotiable? And maybe contrast that when you're working at a self-driving trucking startup that could run over somebody on a pedestrian road. Where's the bar in each?
Yeah, so for those who's not familiar with Datadog, let me maybe just give it a simple explanation. First of all, we're honored that Harvard is actually a Datadog customer. So we're a company that monitor and observe the health of your infrastructure and application that's running in a digital environment. So who knew yesterday AWS had a major outage? Everybody knew, right? So it impacted many and many of our customer services. And I've got several interesting notes from our customers because we actually have a new AI initiative called BIS AI. BIS is the name of the Datadog's dog. So we call our AI product BIS AI. BIS AI, this AI agent, automatically actually detected this AWS outage that impacted many of our customers' environment before everybody realized it was actually an AWS environment. And this is the power of Datadog and also an example of AI in our environment. So I think for every enterprise company, you look for two things in AI. One is how you use AI to better build your product, better serve your customer, provide better services. The other one, we call this AI for Datadog. The other one is Datadog for AI is our customers are using AI and what is the opportunity to provide unique service to them. So coming back to this, our role as an observability and security company, so AI for Datadog, we are building AI agents and we're embedding AI to make Datadog previously a tool that's used by developers and SREs and engineers. How can AI agent automatically do these incredibly complex and cognitively demanding things for human, but a machine can do it really, really well. Like, our AI agent understood the AWS outage before AWS knew it, before our customer knew it. So the second aspect is how do we serve our customers using AI? So our customers are building AI applications, building AI agents, and it's actually incredibly difficult to understand what's happening. We talk about hallucinations and all these AI risks. So how do you observe it and how do you secure it? And the thing about security is you can't secure anything you cannot observe. So we fundamentally believe observability and security are the problems that fundamentally tie together. So we also build products. If you're building your complex AI agents or applications, but you lack visibility and we're concerned about safety and security, we offer products that does that. So that's kind of our two-pronged approach is AI for Datadog and AI and Datadog for AI.
That's great. And Lee, in a fast-moving fintech organization, how do you decide where AI is ready for production versus still too experimental to be considered mission critical for your systems?
All right, so first of all, thank you for having me here. This is the afternoon. I can see the outside cookie is probably more attractive than it's got. First of all, I guess I probably should explain what our company do. How many people heard of Circle? If everyone heard, I don't. Okay, that's, I was joke like this is East Coast, so at least half of people heard of Circle. Circle is the issuer of USDC, the first, I will say the biggest regulated stablecoin in US and globally. So we went public early this year. I think this is really because the regulation technology, really innovation, really converge and at the right time. Now I took on the AI officer role early this year. I was used to joke, and in the addition to the CTO role, I used to joke, if you're AI company, you don't have an AI officer because you are AI. And the reason we have to create this role is because we recognize AI is not just for technology officer, because for engineer product, AI is like, it's a no-brainer, everyone gonna adopt it. But for the rest of the company, particularly in the fintech, heavily regulated space, in order for our finance team, legal team, marketing team, and business team to adopt AI without reservation, it takes a lot of, I would say, push and a pull, and some people are really scared of this. Some people is really eager but don't know where to get it. And get back to your critical question. So when do I know? I don't think there's one answer fits all because we one of my job is really democratize AI so that everyone know what AI means for their function. Right, so one of the demands we had for the past quarter is every function have to have a OKR to say what AI means for you, what are the top 3 tasks that you believe AI will automate. And frankly speaking, 1 year ago, our goal for everyone is use ChatGPT. Literally, that is the only goal, and we pay for everyone, and we monitor the use cases. Fast forward, and now it's more real, like I say, what kind of a workflow you can build to make sure that AI can really boost true productivity, and we go deeper, say, what is your metrics, how you observe this, how you measure the precision, and how you measure the success rate. And I have to say, this is where you get to say, it's not about me trusting the system, it's about this function owner understand what is the metric they are looking for, right? Let's say compliance. They used to be, say, if the compliance operator can achieve 85% of success rate, then this operator is, I would say, past the training. So we will say, okay, so for AI, we actually higher the bar, say it's maybe 90%. Once we can measure this AI agent can do certain operation, 90% accurate, of course, human need to label them, and then we will say this is ready. So at this point, majority is in experimental, but we have quite a few workflow ready for production.
Great. And Sir, maybe first provide just a quick blurb on what Together does in your own words. But you are building the technical foundation for others in many ways, and you're going to hear from your peers over here on the AI transformation they're executing. Not for them, but for others. What do others get wrong about the infrastructure side of enabling that AI transformation for themselves?
Yeah, so just a quick thing about Together. So we are very passionate in building the infrastructure for AI, right? So how can we help people to navigate this very complex space of quality, performance, and cost, and make sure people can actually run their AI on our cloud as efficient as possible. So during that experience, we kind of start to talk to many people in enterprise and also a lot of our university colleagues. So one thing I come to appreciate is really how serious people are thinking about AI from an infrastructure perspective and how to fold this into their 10-year or 20 years old cloud strategy, right? So when a whole bunch of smart people think that seriously, I think it's not about what they are getting wrong. It's more about how can we help them. Right. So I think AI is a very interesting workload in multiple ways. So first one, AI is not a single thing, right? People think about AI as one single thing, but the power of AI is going to enable a whole bunch of downstream applications that look very different from each other. There are backend jobs like summarization, right? Those like bulk processing, and there are those like customer-facing interactive jobs. People often put them in the same bucket as AI, but they're very, very different. And then there are different requirement on performance, and this thing can be very, very expensive. So if you think about this, every single company is kind of facing this very complex space between quality, performance, and cost. And how can we best help them to actually navigate the whole space to essentially help the whole enterprise in their AI transformation? So that's essentially our passion. And what we observe is people need help, right? People need support in navigating that space, and people need us and many other companies who develop the fundamental technology to make it easier for them to think about the space. So that's some of our observations. Yeah.
So do you see that need for support changing over time? I mean, you haven't been in business that long, but you've certainly seen the evolution of chief AI officers coming about. Folks bring AI into the enterprise more comfortably. You see more startups blossoming up. At that first kernel, there was probably a huge need for support. Nobody had done this before. Nobody had built on top of these GPUs and built their own AI systems. How is that changing over time?
Yeah, so I think there are two things, right? So first one is, interesting about AI is it's a continuously evolving field, right? Every month there's some breakthrough, right? So one very natural question is, that breakthrough change what we are doing, right? And if you think in the landscape of a couple years ahead, right? So are we well prepared, right? Is what we are doing today kind of future-proof, right? And how much should we adapt, right? So I think that's something that is the kind of and that's a stable part of. So people always try to reason about change, right? So I think that's an unchanged part of what people are thinking about. So that's kind of a very interesting thing about this new technology and how infrastructure kind of providers and also enterprise, which are users, actually thinking about that. Yeah.
I have a question for Ci, because I always curious how the AI company, particularly the AI native company, follow up, like really follow all the rapid changes in the community. And then when I talk to the AI researchers, they said that they just follow Twitter. Is this how, like, how do you know? See, because the field changes so rapidly. I always curious how people keep up. Because seriously, I'm not a Twitter fan. Like, I know I'm very old school, but I have enough engineers and leaders, and every day they will Slack me, say, Lee, did you hear that? And so I'm just keep up with that. So I just want to, very curious, as an AI native company, how do you keep up?
Yeah, personally, I just asked ChatGPT what's new today.
Do you do it daily?
Yeah, like I read a couple of days, I was like, yeah, like look through all the papers, what's fun about it, right? So, and
Yeah, I know that, but then like I have to do a daily thing, but I'm like, But people literally like minutes, and my CEO was Slack me, say, have you heard that? That's like half an hour ago. I didn't know. My daily ChatGPT haven't shown up yet.
Yeah, so I think that's a challenge, I think, both for industry, also for academia, right? If you ask students who are doing their PhD, right? So it's kind of also very interesting experience for them. It's like every couple of days, there's some related paper, right? They have to read, right? So, but I think that's also the excitement, right? So kind of every couple of days, there are new progress. And what's interesting about, for example, Silicon Valley is it's a community, right? So as a community, we keep up as a collective, right? So I think that's also the power of the ecosystem, I think. Yeah.
Interesting. Klara, how do you balance the drive to innovate in AI with the need for governance, reliability, and ethics, especially as systems become more autonomous and more data hungry?
You know, I just realized that when I was answering the first question, I did not introduce Harvard University. I just kind of assumed that people knew what we do.
I think the reputation precedes.
Yeah. I'll continue going on that assumption. But one thing that's relevant when I'm answering questions is what people don't fully realize is that Harvard is a very distributed place, and it's very similar to a large corporation, multi-global organization. We actually have centers globally as well. It is very, very distributed, and it's proud in being distributed because that's what allows innovation to kind of bubble up, and we have subject matter experts. And very similar to, let's say, consulting organizations and other organizations, it's very talent-rich. There's actually not that much kind of rote work. And there's I'm sure many of you have read the book by Reed Hastings, No Rules, right, about the innovation in Netflix. And that structure, which is a structure where you have very high talent density, and instead of having permissions-based kind of a structure, you set guidelines and rules and you ask people to operate within them, but give them degrees of autonomy is a very important element. And if you do that, if you approach it from that perspective, what you can do is not really see the, innovation and ethics as trade-offs, but you can see them as part of the design of the rules or the guidelines that you are putting in place. And so in a very real way, we have provided these guidelines, provided the rules, encouraged people to experiment, gave them the tools actually from the beginning. We did not, unlike some other organizations, try to block ChatGPT at the firewall or something like that. But we were very clear with expectations that intellectual property protections, data protections are important, and if people use the tools that we give them, they are going to be protected. So our approach has always been making compliance easy, making ethical standards easy, and building them into the products that are being available to people, and that feeds trust that people have in the technology organization to effectively have their back, right? And I think that has been a piece that has worked for us extremely well. But it's, I think, possible in the industry that we are in, which again is very talent-rich.
Yeah, Yanbing, any observations or lessons from the observability space that you can bring to this conversation of balancing innovation, responsibility, making sure there are guardrails, and that you are aware of what's actually happening in a more autonomous world.
Yeah, I'd love to maybe talk about both what happens at Datadog and also contrast what happens when I was building self-driving trucking. You know, because the responsibility feels very, very different. You know, at Datadog, I mentioned we see this as an opportunity. You know, with our role as in observability and security space, we actually see it as an opportunity for us to provide the tooling so that our customer can trust AI. So we are doing things in, you know, again, understanding, you know, how customers are using agents, you know, how they're accessing their LLM, who have access, and what they're doing. We're able to detect, you know, sensitive data, you know, through, you know, the input and output of those LLMs. And even I was talking to a customer who sees GPU as a national security type of asset because, you know, there's serious concerns about deploying GPUs in other countries. So we build GPU monitoring, so you know exactly, you know, who's using it, what kind of workloads happen to it. So, you know, for us, we are a tool provider to, you know, to a technical audience. So we see it's upon our mission to provide the right tool so that our customers can deploy AI in a safe and unconstrained fashion because they feel they can trust the AI they deployed. Now, the landscape was very different in self-driving. I was running the engineering effort for a self-driving company called Aurora. So Aurora is the world's first self-driving trucking company that deployed commercial truck with driver out on public road. And it's actually quite phenomenal to see it on Texas highway, you know, a truck running at 75 miles per hour with no driver in it. It's definitely phenomenal. But you know, as you can imagine, the stake on what could go wrong with that type of AI is extremely, extremely high because, you know, I see that as a much more difficult problem even than passenger cars. You know, passenger cars, you know, everybody's excited to see Waymo navigating the street of San Francisco. Passenger car has an easy kind of fallback mechanism is you slow down or you stop. Where when you're driving a truck that's 75 miles per hour with, you know, such a large weight and size, that option is not even available. For example, if you're a commercial truck driver, you stop your truck on the highway once in a million miles, that's considered very, very dangerous. So it posted a very high bar. Certainly the care that we put in that type of AI in terms of both security, safety is paramount. And love to provide more examples on how we do it, but yeah, it's interesting to see. But despite with that levels of expectation, you know, we still were able to achieve the breakthrough of, you know, pulling out the human driver.
Right. This question of responsibility and safety in this open innovation ecosystem, as specifically maybe as it relates to GPUs. I'm curious if you had a take on what Yanbing just said.
Oh, yeah. So I think there are multiple dimensions of the open innovation system, right? So the GPU, but there's also on the model side, right? So there's a closed model and the open model, right? So I think one thing that kind of interesting is, personally, I believe as an AI, right? So we are at the beginning stage, not at the end stage, right? So I think the future will be built by, as an educator, our essential next generation of students, right? So I think one that's important for something to be reliable and safe is there is essentially mutual trust between two parties, right? And if you think about our students, open model is actually probably one of the few ways that they can actually get into technology, improve it, understand what's going on, and that's actually our mechanism to actually educate our next generation to make sure they understand how to build it, how to use it, and what can go wrong, and how can we improve it, right? So I think that's one dimension of open model. I think that's very important. To make sure we can actually build technology in a very safe way.
Right.
Yeah, and also educate the user for the next generation. I think that's kind of something unique about open model that it's a little bit hard to do for closed model because you cannot change it, or tweak it, right? So, and from the educational perspective, I think it's really important that we actually have that in the frontier because there's something that you can only learn when you actually touch the frontier, right? Yeah.
Got it. And Lee, coming from the most highly regulated seat on the panel, do you have any perspectives you'd like to bring to this subject of innovation, responsibility, and operating with this need for governance and maintaining transparency from your seat?
Yeah, totally. Because I still remember my more than 4 years ago when I first joined Circle, I was shocked at how restrictive we were. Because of everything has to go through legal and compliance and risk review first. Because I grew most of my career in Google, and the model is like running fast and iterative, and the fintech is totally different game. But over the time, I start to appreciate it, but I also work with the team to how to really improve. I think the AI and the recent regulation change really provide a good opportunity to be more balanced. But still, we need to make sure that whatever we do, we can explain to regulators. We have to put, for everything, we have to put a monitor, and again, we are proud user of Datadog, and we have to monitor and be able to record everything, why we make this decision, why we design this system, what kind of metrics we are tracking, what kind of error fallback mechanism we will adopt. And ultimately, at this point, I have to say AI is still, it's very powerful, but not reliable. I can say, okay, AI did that decision. So we are not there. Even for coding, in which we have a very powerful tool, we require every engineer still sign their name, say, this is the code I I put in the code. Even if it's 90% or even 100% written by AI, you have to put your name, say, this is my checking, and there will be another human being review, say, I reviewed this. Even with all the AI powerful support, we want to make sure there's a name, because in this field, when regulator coming, we want to be able to explain this is how we take responsibility. Now, I look forward to the days that we can say, okay, this is what AI generated, but right now we are not ready. But with that, I will say we are actually learn a lot of what's the delta between the AI and a human being, even though sometimes AI seems more smart, but the majority of time, we still trust a human more.
Because it's really interesting. You're relying on attestation basically as a mechanism, right?
Yes.
But there are studies that show that there's this kind of falling asleep behind the wheel element of AI, right? Where it sounds so good, it just must be true, right? And so, kind of, how are you dealing with maybe sampling or a way of making sure that because sometimes the attestation alone may not be enough.
I totally. We do have, frankly speaking, incident, and when I looking into this, and the reviewer say, "Oh, we didn't check carefully" or something, because it's nature, human nature to. After a while, you feel comfortable, then you have to do a little bit of training. And it's an iterative kind of a process. It's just no perfect solution, but we just have to pull out all the examples where AI made a mistake. And we do constant training. One thing I'm very proud is we have a small AI team, not just doing the tool building, but we also have I hired a dedicated person who do AI training, work with the talent team. We also encode AI value into the company performance review, say how much you learn, but also how responsible you are when you do it. So it's kind of a fuzzy, there's no 1% answer, but yes, we have to constantly remind people there's something. Yeah, very good question.
Thank you.
On that subject of training and people, this might be very relevant for some of the folks in this room. For the students and researchers in the audience, what skills or mindsets will be most critical to thrive in this AI-driven workforce that everyone here is spearheading? I mean, a lot of these folks would probably love to work on your teams within your organizations. Going beyond the glib, study hard, work hard, be curious. Let's be practical and try to talk about what are you looking for in that crop of talent coming into your organization?
I'm really pissed off by so many organizations believing they don't need junior engineers and entry-level engineers, and because their jobs are being replaced with AI. So within my organization, we are actually trying to actively recruit the younger generations of software engineers and recent graduates, because we think these are the workforce that is, not only come in with the most experience and aptitude toward AI, but also doesn't carry the baggage of how things have been done before. So, I know for a lot of the young people here, this seemed to be not a really good time to graduate as a computer science major, but we believe that's absolutely the wrong strategic decision made by companies, and we are actually bucking the trend. We're increasing the hiring in that, earlier career, newer college hire.
Yes.
And
So
this
you should send a resume to Datadog.
and certainly we also recognize our biggest gap is actually experienced data scientists, ML engineers, people who deeply understand data and model training. And this has been the knowledge gap that's also we're actively seeking for. We have lots of really great just software engineer, infrastructure engineer, system engineer, but the people who really is very comfortable dealing with ML models, that's a critical skill set we're looking for, and we're looking for those in young people.
Fantastic.
I want to add on to this because I agree with Yanbing, but I have a theory of it because we got a board members and the CEO ask us, hey, we don't need a new grads or junior. Like they posed as a question. And for a while, I was like debating whether, and I realized people, including myself, sometimes conflate of junior engineer or new grads with the people who can only do basic building blocks. And those are, like, if you can only write a very basic functions and take orders, yes, those people will be replaced. And in many of the traditional companies, yes, this is what the jobs they assign to junior employees. That's why they feel like, AI can do that. So from that angle, it's reasonable. However, like Yanbing said, we actually want to hire new grads, very innovative, AI native junior and people who really can learn things very fast. So then what we're looking for, because they may not have so many years of experience and know building things, what we're looking for is a curiosity and a learning ability. I think curiosity sometimes it's hard to test, but the learning ability is when we discuss the problem with the candidate just to see how they react and whether they really will go down to the first principle thinking. Because a lot of people will say, okay, so and so said so. But if you really drill down, and why is that? And when training I learned from the Google early days, because Google early days has a lot of new grads, like including me, only 2 years out of school. What the training is, you have to ask why and keep asking why, and until you fully internalize why you're doing this and why this solution is the best you can provide. And nowadays, a lot of training is about, do you know this language? Do you know this algorithm? It's a lot about memory, which AI can totally replace. And you, as a person, as a smart talent like Harvard student, you just have to learn how to ask why and internalize this is like using your brain and why you want to take this approach. So this is a kind of a different, I know it's hard to interview, but I totally agree. If I find some smart new grads talent, like we would really get onto this like immediately.
Right.
So you can send a resume to Circle too.
And so you have one foot in each camp. You're directly involved with with Chicago and Together AI. You kind of straddle both. Any observations on or practical insights into how this kind of interdisciplinary collaboration can work most effectively? What could business leaders as well as students learn from your experience sitting in both camps?
Yeah, so first of all, as a professor, definitely appreciate that you give our students a chance, right, for a major company like Datadog and Circle, because I think when students graduate, right, so their first job actually matters, right? It matters for their personal growth. It also matters on just like on their excitement, right, about the field, right? It definitely makes a lot of kind of like impact. So I think what's interesting, just thinking more from educational perspective. So we have this very powerful tool, which is AI, right? You can think about that in different ways. You can think about it as an abstraction that hides all the complexity, or you can treat it as a tool that you can tweak and make the next best thing, right? So I feel one thing that kind of really important is we start to teach our students across all the departments that it's not only abstraction. It's something that also you can build like by yourself, that you can change it. And you are going to create the next AI that we never see to actually change your field. I think that's really, really important, and that's actually require us to actually have collaborations across different disciplines, right? So one of my dreams is like, I hope every single graduate student, when they graduate, no matter which department they come from, they train a model themselves. They actually take some data, doesn't need to be a huge amount of data, but they train a language model and try to see, oh, if I put this data in, that is the behavior of the model. Try to build this connection between data and model behavior. I think that's very, very important. And not only understand, oh, this is a one recipe, if you do this, everything will go right, but try to understand the other 100 recipes that doesn't go right? What could go wrong when you're actually training such a model? I think making that happen is really, really important. And also in terms of computer science, I think what's also very important there is also break down different abstraction layers, right, to really understand, okay, from silicon to intelligence, right, how does every single layer work? I think if we have a generation of students who understand that, we can build the next generation of AI together. I think that's the only way for us to get there. So sorry for being a professor. That long answer, but I think that's really, it's a really rare opportunity that we can actually make that happen as a community.
Certainly.
No, but what I was going to say is, and I'm going to butcher this quote, but Ray Kurzweil a while back said that we are living in a system whose rate of change is accelerating. So it's not just about the change, but it's about the rate of change that is faster and faster. And there's an element of reinvention that one has to do, and we are now talking about how many different careers or jobs people are going to have, especially graduating now. And I think this kind of element of being able to draw from a breadth of experience that you receive in college, which is not only computer science, but by the way, this is the argument that I was making for liberal arts education, because you will have other fields when you're going through the reinvention eventually, at some point, maybe 3 years down the road, other fields that you can draw from in order to reinvent yourself. I think it's a really, really important element as well. So it's not just learning, it's this thinking about self-reinvention that I think is going to be important.
Yeah, but sorry, you
Go ahead.
you first.
So very similar to this view of kind of a mindset, a belief. I recognize there's in young people, there are many AI believers versus the previous generations of engineers. There are lots of skeptics. I know a couple of weeks ago, OpenAI had their Dev Day, and they published a list of names of people who use more than 1 trillion of their tokens. So this kind of a hero board of their who's who.
Yeah.
And the only product manager, think about a product manager name on that board, is a young female product manager from my team. And she was our deep AI believer when everybody was thinking, oh, this phase will pass. And she's the one who actually built the product that detected this AWS problem behind the scene, with the AI agent before many of our customers realized that. And I was just really inspired by her being a deep AI believer and a young product manager, but being willing to take a very technical approach toward building an AI product. And these are things that really wasn't possible many years ago.
This is an aside. I'm curious, did your CFO see that same list and have a heart attack?
No, I don't think we showed it to him.
Okay, probably for the
Because
best.
everybody was calculating what's the revenue
tokens,
generated.
Yeah, so
times.
Yeah.
Actually, very good example because I can build on because what I want to say is AI actually is a big opportunity for non-technical major student because it's lowered your code development barrier so much that you don't have to feel, oh I have to take whatever. You probably still beneficial to take some CS class, but you don't have to be a CS major. But you can still be an expert in your field, whether it's a bio or energy or whatever. Because I personally believe there's a lot of talk about the AI in the tech, but AI with other discipline, like power consumption, for example, the physical world and the biotech. There's a lot already, but frankly speaking, that combination is still very early. So if you can harness the AI power and focus your area to use AI in your whatever biochemistry, I think that will be a huge potential.
Fantastic. Klara, you've in the past likened your role as the CIO to being an octopus, having the job of connecting systems and cultures across an extremely complex, large organization. As AI now cuts across every boundary, research, product, infrastructure, governance, how are you re-architecting Harvard practically to enable this kind of cross-functional intelligence at scale? And this is something that I'm sure a Fortune 500 CEO would think about. I'm sure the folks in this room are thinking about, no matter how large your organization is. How are you doing it at Harvard?
It's a great question. Let me just say the idea that I'm re-architecting Harvard is, there would be a lot of hubris in that. But I think what is important to realize is the fact that as we are moving to a more of a networked institution from kind of what we used to call pillars of excellence, right? And we are kind of talking about this. We are fusing effectively across, right? And one of the things that we need to think through is that majority of the questions/issues in adoption of AI really has to do with our own ability to change our own operating model. And I think, so oftentimes when I talk about this topic, I talk to people about Azar's exponential age or exponential gap, right? So this idea that technology evolves, at a kind of an exponential rate while we as institutions kind of evolve much more slowly, and that introduces this exponential gap where we cannot consume things or adapt to things as quickly as the technologies that is being introduced. And I think giving people explicit permission, there are many times in meetings when I will say, you are not being able to keep up, and that is part of the design. But our job is actually to think about how do we want to rethink our organizational structures and how we work together in order to be able to absorb and start evolving faster. And so I think that's really important, and it requires people to stop thinking in these kind of, if you will, organizational silos and really being able to interconnect across. And I think people in technology fields have this unique opportunity to help organizations think about that and get people sort of unstuck from this is my lane that I trained on. And I think it's really, really exciting, but I would never take credit for re-architecting anything because the changes
Influencing.
Right, and the changes with the individual. So it's much more about how do you inspire people to step outside than it is about a mandate. I would actually say that in places like Harvard, mandates are just a difficult thing to try to enforce.
Well, even in company, I would say, because when we first talk about top-down AI mandate, at the beginning, we actually recognize it's scary. Because the CEO said, look, AI is super powerful. We're going to be more effective. The company will get lean. Well, meaning that cutting costs, and we don't need so many employees. So this is not easy to hear if you're a rank and file employee. And I know that's not what he meant, because I'm going forward knowing how much things we need to do, and we know we will still need employees. So in return, I work with our head of talent and say, instead of telling people, say, if you don't use AI, you're out, we'll say, look, think about the trend. If you want to be future-proof, and this may or may not be your last job, we want to empower you to be successful in the AI age. What kind of a training you need? So we did a survey, say, what kind of AI skill you have now, and what kind of AI skill you think you should have, and what kind of training you need. So we definitely want to invest and make sure that people know this is for you, because it's not going to be AI replace you, it's really people who know AI going to replace you. So why don't we empower you to be that person, and that the company will be successful with you. So I think I totally agree with you, it's inspiration. But in the company, I have to say, because we do look at numbers. So how many people use AI? What's the productivity we get? But in terms of a message, in terms of how to get people along, we have to go to the positive side. Yeah.
Great.
I have to say, when we think about the AI, I mentioned we're building, AI agents essentially that make our customers' job easier. And rather than thinking, oh God, I'm going to reduce the people, is how can I do more now with AI's help? Because most of the companies, technical teams are struggling to keep up with the increased demand on them, and we've seen that is a much easier messaging. One of the customers said, we have a team of 5 now with AI agent. We're truly behaving like a team of 20, as opposed to now I have a team of 5. Can I do it with a team of 1? So I find that to be really thinking about it in a much more value-add, empowering way, as opposed to, this is just going to be a cost-cutting driver.
Right. We've got about 5 minutes left, so we're going to do a quick rapid fire down the line, and then we'll open up to Q&A. If you had a magic wand and you can wave it and remove just one major bottleneck to just turbocharging scalable AI adoption today, it could be technical, regulatory, cultural, whatever it might be, what would you pick?
Yeah, so I think my mental model about this is to navigate the space where y-axis is intelligence and x-axis is essential energy, right? So the question is, for 1 dose of intelligence, how many megawatts that you need to actually produce that, right? If you think about the space, I think today there are 2 things that are kind of interesting about space, which I think are kind of a bottleneck. First one is not continuous. You have a whole bunch of discrete points in the space. You cannot really navigate that. And second is, if you really want AI to have access to every single one in the world, that frontier is way too low. That frontier need to be pushed like 100 or 1,000 times to make sure we actually can enable every single one in our society have access to intelligence, right? So pushing that frontier up and make the whole space continuous, I think if you can make that happen, it's going to change how we think about intelligence.
So I would just say, when you are from in that institution that is older than the United States, you realize that you're sitting on a lot of legacy. And that means that your data is not entirely AI ready. Maybe we are the only organization that has this issue.
Conservatives, most are not AI ready.
And so for me, the big bottleneck is actually, how do you have AI-ready data pipelines? And how can you free up the data effectively with governance, with ethics, with that kind of security ethical layer to be ready for ingestion in your AI models? And that's the bottleneck that I would probably focus on.
I'll give an example that's very core to the type of work we do, given we develop tools to help people, build products and, run their environment. My answer will be evaluation. The progress of AI, especially as you build AI models or you try to deploy AI applications, is guarded by the quality of your evaluations. This was very true when we were building self-driving trucks. It's kind of exciting to see how we teach the truck to continue to drive better. But it's very easy to get to 99%. It's very, very difficult to get to 99.9999% where you don't kill people for 1,000,000 miles. And that is guarded by high quality evaluation. You're making progress. And I see the same thing happen in today's AI. If you see high quality AI applications, and that's consistently useful and high quality and safe, they're guarded by high quality evaluations. So.
Yeah. You pretty much took my message, but I'm going to change one. I would just say, if I have a magic wand, I just want people to stop listening to, say, AGI is here tomorrow or something. I think even for AGIs come in a year or 2 years, I think it's not a useful message. Why do I say so? Because I truly believe the power of AI, but I also believe this is the beginning of a long journey, right? If you think whatever today you saw the AI, it's way gonna like I believe that eventually we're going to reach a stage that the application, the power you cannot imagine today. Keep saying AGI is here. I think it's a distorted view because it's a limit to your imagination. And frankly speaking, a majority of the non-tech people, if you ask them about AI, they're thinking about ChatGPT.
Right.
And that's a very, very small use case and a very basic case. And I'm sure AI will empower so many applications that we cannot imagine. I don't want people just too much focus on the format today, and also too much focus on the job displayment or whatever today. Just imagine the power of AI can enable so many things you just cannot imagine today. Yeah.
Great. Thank you all very much. We have a few moments for Q&A, if there are any in the audience. Yes.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. It's been a pleasure to hear you all speak over here. My question is actually to Klara. Klara, during the first time when you spoke in this panel, you was talking about ROI is not hard but soft. Like, could you elucidate that a bit more? Because, yeah, I was pretty intrigued by that statement.
Yeah, so when I said that ROI is soft, just bear with me for a second. When you deploy, let's say ChatGPT, a very simple example, ChatGPT broadly, make it available to everybody, right? You will encounter what's called productivity leakage. Productivity leakage is people are going to use it, right? But you actually don't know what they're going to do with the time that they have saved, right? And that makes it very difficult to measure the ROI of I have spent X number of dollars on a university-wide ChatGPT license. This is the productivity that I have gained. And this is to the CFO, the offsetting savings that you're going to see.
We have time for one more? In the back, yeah.
Sorry. By the way, this ROI question, it comes up in media a lot.
Yeah, and I think some of the media talk just go very biased to say, oh, how many lines of code are written by AI? It's totally not ROI because the number of lines has nothing to do with the productivity. The real productivity is hard to measure. That's why they avoid that.
Hi, I'm Bo. This question is coming from the perspective of, call it a mature company investor where AI, the potential is clear, it's obvious, but actually getting it implemented, getting it adopted, and measuring metrics is not so trivial. Can you speak a little bit about, especially Li and Yanbing, it sounds like maybe there was a top-down initiative to drive AI. What's worked, what's not worked in terms of the cultural shift and actually driving your employee workforce? Much of that is probably legacy at the end of the day, as opposed to many of the people in this room, to actually drive adoption of AI. And then what is maybe the one stat that you're most proud of since you've adopted AI?
Yeah, first of all, I actually recognize it's top-down, but I'm very grateful of top-down. Because if you don't have the top-down from board to CEO to really mandate it, it's actually hard. And because particularly if I go to the CFO organization or legal organization, without the board support, at that time, to be honest, like everyone's busy preparing IPO, and literally the answer is like we are busy with preparing IPO, and we don't want AI and this kind of thing. Once we have that, it's much easier to talk to them and set a realistic goal without impacting that. So I do think that sounds like not so fun, but the top-down support because we do need engage, not just like, again, ChatGPT, we want them to look at their workflow. So that's one thing. But the learning here is, frankly speaking, is about evaluation. Because when we first say, hey, everyone have Cursor, everyone has ChatGPT, everyone has NAN, the tools we start to open, but we don't know the ROI. And after a quarter or two, and I feel like we cannot keep relying on CEO's conviction. I'm an engineer by training. I want to convince myself AI is useful. And where is the usage? Do people just keep ChatGPT, book their birthday party, which, by the way, is useful, but it's not really saving their time, right? So I think what we start to look at is building up the system to evaluate what's the precision. Can we put them in the production, and how the production, let's say, customers react when we have a very tiny AI agent talking to customer. It's again very tiny because we are not ready to say replace all the customer agent in our space. Just want to be realistic, how they react and measure them, and so that we can present, say, okay, this is the incremental improvement. One learning I would say is so far, at least in the enterprise with a lot of legacy data, with heavy regulated space, most of the measurable improvement are incremental. We haven't seen revolution and say, wow, this is like replace everything. Not really. But all the incremental improvements are solid and provable. And so in overall, I'm happy with that.
Great.
I think it's a combinations of top-down and bottom-up. I mentioned that we want to do, AI fit Datadog, meaning we use AI to make Datadog's product better. So the simple question for me to every product manager is, today we build a SaaS product with rich UI and all of that. Think about what's the agentic modality for your product. And so now we have multiple AI agents, essentially the agentic form of our product, and that's proven to actually have work in the real world. So some of this definitely comes from a lot of strong top-down encouragement, but we're also excited to see actually we are starting to see really usable, useful product being produced across the board, and that's with a lot of encouragement, but also the bottom-up willingness to innovate.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom.